The recent Edge magazine article on Doom the Dark Ages revealed several key details about the upcoming game, highlighting its gameplay, story, and design philosophy. Here are the main takeaways. Thank you for joining my YouTube channel. I am Arcade Future. You're here. We're talking about Doom the Dark Ages. Let's get into it. So, Doom appeared on the cover of Edge magazine. There's an article there. We're going to go through it today. We're not going to read the whole thing, but we are going to go through the main points and talk about some of the gameplay changes, talk about the weapons, level design, and just kind of give a general overview of the things covered in this article. And I'm going to also add in a few tidbits and details and thoughts that I have as we go through it, right? So the first thing is the gameplay changes, right? Doom the Dark Ages is going to emphasize heavier, more grounded combat, moving away from the acrobatic gameplay of Doom Eternal. The Doomslayer is described as an iron tank with a slower but more deliberate movement and combat mechanics. We knew this, right? We knew going into this that this was going to be a more slower, methodical game. If you check my first video about Doom the Dark Ages called Doom is Evolving, you can see that I kind of already called that this is going to be way, way slower and way more about timing and precision and strategy, right? And it seems like this iron tank motif that they keep throwing out there is alluding to that, right? No double jump, right? So we got confirmed there is no double jump in this game. The iconic double jump is removed, replaced by a shield bash mechanic for traversal and combat. And I think this is a whole new way to look at and play Doom, because Doom has been mostly about strafing, and then into the Dark Ages and even a little bit of 2016 more about jumping. And it looks like they're very much putting a de-emphasis on jumping this time around. And now we're getting into more defensive slash aggressive mechanics that aren't necessarily about dodging and weaving, but knowing, how to manage and juggle probably your cooldowns, right? So if you think of games like Overwatch, you think of Marvel Rivals, you think of a lot of, RPG games that have, abilities on cooldowns. We're probably going to get something like that. We still need to wait and see, right? New weapons so far: Shield Saw. It is a versatile tool for blocking, parrying, and attacking. It can be thrown like Captain America's shield and is used for environmental interactions, such as breaking chains or activating mechanisms. We saw that in the trailer. The shield can actually be used to find secrets, which I think is really cool. I think what's going to make this game really successful is the way that they use the sounds in this game and the way they make you feel powerful, right? Medieval melee weapons, Gauntlet for quick attacks, Flail for high damage but slow, and Mace, which has massive damage with long cooldowns, right? And then we have the Skull Crusher gun, which we saw crushes up the skulls and fires bone fragments as ammunitions. The glory kill system is revived. They're supposed to be more contextual and varied based on weapon choice and angles of attack. Now, we know a lot of people in the Doom community have been quite upset about this. I've gone on record as saying it doesn't really feel like it's exactly a glory kill system. They're just keeping that because it probably sounds better than to say, oh yeah, we got rid of glory kills, even though that's basically what they did. But they've changed it to be where you kind of have more, you have more options, right? You have more abilities and how you probably respond and react to certain enemies, right, and demons on screen. What I'm guessing is that there's probably going to be ways that you could pull enemies in, push enemies out, move enemies to the left, to the right, and this new revised glory kill system will give you the ability to kind of decide how you're going to dispose of the enemy, because that's probably going to be a part of your crowd control. Considering how many enemies we've seen on screen of Doom the Dark Ages, it tells me that this is going to be a game that's big on crowd control, right? So that's something to think about. Vehicle selections: players can pilot the Cybernetic Dragon, 30-story Atlan mech in certain missions. We've heard that they've been promoting that a bunch. Largest levels yet. So they said that the levels are sandbox-like with open areas for exploration, secrets, and resources. They avoid Eternal's verticality, but maintain a variety with like dungeon-like spaces transitioning into open environments. And this is something I'm really curious about. Like, how will it feel to take on all the enemies, and how will it still be challenging when, part of the verticality in Doom Eternal was the part that made it challenging, because there were so many levels and you were always trying to hit the lifts and get around the map, right, constantly moving. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the best players will master this game. And I've compared this many times before to like beat 'em up games like Sifu, where you're kind of going on a sort of a simulation, or you're going on a track and you're going through and you're defeating enemies. It may not be as linear as that because they said it's sandbox like, but I imagine it's still going to be pretty linear, right? Shorter play sessions, levels are designed to last around an hour to balance exploration and pacing. That is really interesting, right? So we're going to have a lot longer levels in this game, meant to last around an hour. Um, that's pretty impressive and interesting. And it seems like it's really going to be kind of like if you think of Halo Infinite, where it was still linear, but they had these sort of large open worlds where you kind of go into areas and territories and fight enemies. I think it could be a lot similar to Halo Infinite's campaign, hopefully a lot better than that, because Halo Infinite's campaign was, while it was great, it was not as good as it could have been, right? But anyway, that's a video for a different day. Make sure you're subscribed for that one. Story focus, right? So narrative driven gameplay, the game places greater emphasis on storytelling compared to previous titles. Cutscenes, feature key characters and world building elements to explore the Doomslayer's origins in the medieval setting. We know about that. No multiplayer, we know about that. I mean, we only really got the multiplayer on Doom 2016, which was like traditional FPS multiplayer, more attuned to like Unreal Tournament or Quake. And then in Doom Eternal, we got that sort of 1v1v1 or 2v1 gameplay where, two people can play as demons, one plays as the Doomslayer. And it's kind of garnered a cult following despite it being, very unorthodox in its gameplay style, right? So we have the medieval setting, and they specifically mention like advanced technology with the medieval vibes. So that allows for a lot of fantasy and interesting dynamics, and it's going to be inspired by the classic Doom of 93, right? Maze-like combat scenarios, strategic movement alongside the horizontal axis rather than verticality. So I do think that's good, right? Those are the things that they kind of talked about in the article. One of the things that the article kind of emphasizes is during their interview with the developers, they have a section called Art of Fighting, and this sort of doubles down on what I was mentioning in one of my previous videos about how Doom the Dark Ages is more of a combat simulator now with shooter elements. In the article it says, with such an emphasis on getting up close to your foes, whether it's to parry or to smack them with a spiked metal ball, avoiding the pitfalls of first-person melee combat such as imprecision and visual confusion becomes paramount. It's a matter of composition, Martin explains, or using classical art principles such as framing and the rule of thirds. When it doesn't feel good, it's because the composition is muddled. I'm too close to the enemy, I'm looking down at them, my fist is over here, and I don't really see it. If need be, it's better to cheat than aim for realism, making blows land from a greater distance, he says. With Doom, it helps that every melee strikes matter. Stratton adds making a visual impact and triggering visual effects. So this is kind of going back to this whole point of it's not going to be super realistic, as we know, but they said they're going to really dial in the feeling of the melee combat so that way it feels fun and it feels engaging. And I think that's really where Doom excels as an FPS game compared to other games, is that they've really dialed in each sound, each punch, every little piece is really fine-tuned. And that's what they've mentioned here, is that in order to keep the fighting grounded and to make it feel punchy and make it feel impactful and make it feel powerful, they have to really dial that in and make sure that they have some fantasy to play with and that it's tuned for greatness, tuned for fun. Right. So anyway, those are the things that are in the New Edge article. If you like this video, give me a like, comment, subscribe, drop a comment if you're hyped for it. Are you still nervous about Doom the Dark Ages? Check out some of my older videos where we talked about should you be worried about Doom the Dark Ages. Look at that video, drop a comment, let me know what you think. There's going to be more Doom content coming, and you can check out that Edge magazine article if you so choose. Peace.